What's family mean to you, Mary?
Oh, it means everything. It's always meant everything to Lou and me. It's to us, family was the rock that we not only leaned on through the tough times and so forth, but we always felt that family was, well, faith, family, and friends, in that order.
It's a good way to put it. How would you describe your marriage with Lou?
Well, it was no ordinary marriage. It was a wonderful, wonderful 65 and a half years. But you know, and right now we're getting so many letters and notes, and we're just reliving so many experiences that people have been writing about. And so we're thriving on all of those wonderful stories. But you know what? In coaching, you had lots of ups and downs. But the good thing about Lou, and much more than me, he could keep an even keel throughout all of it. He was just the same guy all the time, and he just dealt with it. And I hadn't really experienced that in my young life, and so I had to really adjust to that. It was tough.
So Mary, how does a girl from Lanark, Illinois meet a guy from OK, Oklahoma?
I married a migrant worker, and he was coming to Lanark, Illinois every summer to work the pea and corn packs. We had a Green Giant canning factory right in our little hometown, 1,400 population. And he and his some college buddies, and they had been recruited by some canning factories to come north because there wasn't much work in the South at that time. That was early 50s. And so I think I've mentioned this before, that I met him the last month of the last summer he would have ever been in Lanark, Illinois. Three different years he came up there, summers. And that's how he sort of helped himself through school. But I'll tell you when I knew that he was special, when he told me that the $1 an hour that he was making, he was sending 90% of it home to his parents. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I got here? He was special, such a special guy.
And the rest is history, as they say, right?
It is.
Was he the same when he was younger as he was when he was older? That charismatic kind of guy, fun-loving?
Does tall, dark, and handsome ring a bell? He was a handsome guy and so fun to be with, and yeah, he was always the same, basically, always the same.
What did integrating Hardin-Simmons mean to him and to you?
Well, having coached and actually starting at the high school with totally integrated programs, and also at the university at New Mexico State, that was a totally integrated school. So we just couldn't see that anything else would be appropriate. And so when he went to Hardin-Simmons and found out, hey, this is an all-white school, he wasn't going to take that job and he just spoke right directly to the board. I will take this job with one stipulation, and if you integrate the school. And that meant basketball and all. And so, well, we just couldn't see it any other way.
Out of everything that he did and you guys did, how do you look back on that now and the importance of what that meant?
At the time, I mean, we knew that was the right thing to do. But he was involved in history, actually, because he was recruiting Mississippi, and Mississippi, wasn't having any black players or any ethnic groups on their teams. They were just all white. But he went down there in his little VW Beetle, and he talked to the coaches, and absolutely, he actually stayed with the black coaches because they told him it was the safest thing to do for him. And he would stay in their homes at night and then go with them to the gyms and watch their kids play. And that's how he recruited some blacks out of Mississippi. And we were so thrilled to get wonderful young men.
And that led to bigger offers, right? I understand he had an offer from Oklahoma the same time he did from Illinois.
The same day.
I'm curious how much of a factor you had in that decision to come to Illinois and moving back closer to your roots, Mary.
Duh. I'm telling you, if Lou had taken that Oklahoma job, there might have been a divorce. But we were so thrilled. I have such a big extended family in northwestern Illinois around the Freeport, Rockford, Lanark area. And oh my gosh, they were just so thrilled when he was considering Illinois. And of course, as you said, the rest is history.
Being a coach's wife isn't always easy. And we can laugh about that right now.
Well, I can now. Going through that, you talked about our marriage. You know, we lived our lives just like ordinary people, except that our focus was so different. Our focus was on the job and what it would take to have this job succeed, what it would take to have him succeed. And I knew at the time that I had to be a big part of that. And that's why I traveled with him all the time to all the games. He wanted me there. He wanted me to be an extension of him. And actually, that's sort of what happened. He was such a good guy, and he wanted, when he couldn't cover all the bases, he wanted me covering a few.
What did that mean to you, to have that responsibility and to lift him up and also, you know, be a woman yourself and trying to raise a family and,
Yes.
you know, have your own life, so to speak?
Well, you know, our family, our kids, they've always been so fabulous and supportive, and of course they adored their dad, and you know, they loved that he was the coach, and they got a lot of extra attention because of that. You might figure that. And we just included them. We just kept them in the fold, and they knew exactly what was going on, and they also became extensions of Dad.
What are some of your favorite memories you have, whether that's, you know, a game, a time with the family, an experience you guys got to have that, you know, like you mentioned, a lot of other families didn't?
Well, I'll tell you this story. We never took a non-relative, non-business related vacation until we had been married 35 years. And Lou had always been wanting to take me to San Francisco. And he had gone to the Cow Palace back in when they had the Final Four there, and he just wanted me to enjoy that area. So we got this package deal with the car and the hotel and so forth, and we went off to San Francisco, thinking, oh my gosh, here we are, the two of us. We just are sort of free, as you might say. Well, little did we know, they were having an architects convention in San Francisco. At that time, 1 out of every 12 architects were Illini. We went right into, and it started on the BART after we got off the plane, and even on the plane, the BART. And this was in the 80s when Lou was, sort of hot, and well known by then. And we started to check in at the hotel. There were 4 or 5 aligning. Everybody recognized him. We went to a Chinese restaurant. Everybody wanted to talk to him, get their auto. So here's what we did. We said, we can't, this is just like having a gigantic alumni meeting here in San Francisco. So we just got in our little car and we started out. We left San Francisco and we went up to the wine country and Yosemite, and we got to actually spend some time by ourselves. It was really quite nice. But that was our first vacation by ourselves in all that time. We had always had kids or gone to see family in all those years.
It's a great memory.
It is. It is. We had a lot of fun.
And you mentioned the support earlier. Can you even put into words how much support you've gotten here in the last couple of weeks? The cards, the phone calls, people reaching out.
Oh no, I can't put it into words. I can just say incredible support. Cards, letters, telephone calls. Oh my gosh, our players have been fabulous. They've called, and I can't talk to each one of them, but they've left voicemail and messages and gone online, and our neighbors and friends and of course the Illini Nation have all reached out, and it's just been wonderful to read everything. Of course, there are many stories that I had never heard about, because he doesn't come home every day and say, okay, this happened. He didn't share every last thing he did, and oh my goodness, there were so many that we really didn't know about. But I just have to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I have to say how wonderful the medical care has been here. From 17 years ago, when Dr. Jeff Kerouac miraculously found his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was just a miracle. It was during just a regular checkup, and he said, I think I want you to go have an MRI. Well, that revealed his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that started him on the road to chemo and all that sort of thing. And of course, he's had other issues then as a result of that. But we just are beholden to so many caregivers, therapists, physicians, nurses. Everyone has been so good. And why do you think he's been here 17 years? Because he got great care. He got great care from all those folks. And not only here, in New Mexico, when we would go down there, when we spent those years down there coaching again, the people just were so wonderful in New Mexico. And of course, MD Anderson entered in, and in Texas, and we had wonderful care there. So that's how he survived. Not only the sheer will that he had to keep going. And I have to tell you this quick story. We had a caregiver. His last caregiver was a guy from Indiana, but he wasn't a real Hoosier fan, but he liked Illinois too. And he was a checker player. And of course, Lou loves playing checkers. And even within 2 weeks of his death, he was challenging John to a checker game, and actually once in a while he would beat him, even though he wasn't quite with it, but he just had to compete. That was his middle name, competition. And he just loved playing checkers and the card games, the bridge and all. He played right through the years in his retirement. And that brought so much joy and happiness to him, because he was actually still competing. Oh, one other quick little story. uh, when at MD Anderson, they told us a few years back that he probably, Lou would just ask. He said, "So how much time do I have, Doctor So and So?" And the doctor would think of a moment, and he'd say, "Well, Lou, the patient that I had, the longest living patient I had with this particular problem, lived 7 years." And of course, that was many, many years ago he said that. But Lou came out of the appointment and he said, "Well, I know I can beat that." He was competing to see if he could outlive that guy. I mean, that tells you a lot about Lou.
Well said, Mary. Anything else you want to add?
Well, just that, as I said before, we are so beholden to everyone for all their support and love and caring that they've shown our family and shown Lou. He played bridge, but he wasn't the greatest toward the end. But that didn't make any difference. Our friends would come over and play with him just to give him the enjoyment of competing and so forth. Same with checkers. And you'll never know how much we appreciate that and how much it meant to Lou and to our family.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.